Okay, so as we were talking about the Environment Day and environment degradation, you know that the present system has caused to our planet and it has caused it to fry. So we had some very amazing guests with us. So we have Dr. Naveed Arshad, who happens to be co-director at the LUMS Energy Institute. Assalamu alaikum, sir, and thank you so much for coming to our show.
Thank you very much for inviting.
Right.
Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. Wonderful to have you here.
Right. And our second esteemed guest is Dr. Sabieh Anwar, who happens to be Dean School Sciences of Engineering, and he also happens to be from the LUMS University, which is a very prestigious university. Thank you so much, sir, and welcome to World This Morning.
So thank you very much, sir, first of all, for joining us all the way from Lahore. But let's get started. And so, Dr. Saab, first of all, I think we would like to start from you as well. You know, when we speak about World Environment Day, we really need to highlight the significance of this day. And I've spoken, you know, in my introduction that, you know, we might not be a contributor, but the impact is enormous on our country when we talk about Pakistan itself. So let's get started with how important it is.
Yeah, thank you, Shahzad. I think Pakistan has been, you can say the contribution to the world emissions has been minimal. I think less than 1% or even lower. However, our emissions are going up because we have been using more fossil fuels, population is growing. But closer to our, you can say closer to our location, we have a lot of problem air quality. That is something that is really haunting us. And although climate change is a global phenomena, we have to do ways to mitigate it, we have to ways to adapt it. The glaciers are melting, we need to regrow them. In fact, there are methods to do it. But I think the more important thing is that that is something, a global phenomena, and the world has to work on it together.
True.
Closer to our, you can say closer to where we live, are the issues of air quality, water quality, soil quality.
Especially in Lahore.
Especially in Lahore. And people think that Lahore, now it's a fifth season, the smog season, but the problem is the smog is just, you could say, a culmination of this. We have bad air quality throughout the year. I mean, in the past many years, I think if you remember the COVID days, we could see the blue sky, we can see the moonlight, which I remember from my childhood that we used to see. So the point is that it can be controlled, but the problem is that most of the work of most of the emissions that are coming from the energy sources.
True.
So you see 43% pollution is coming from motor vehicles, 20% coming from industry. Again, industry is using energy and also some of the processes, and then power generation, another 15%. So more than 2/3 of it is coming from something related to energy. And we need to do it you can say on a war footing, even more than war footing, I would say. It's a calamity, it's a catastrophe. There probably we do not have even verbs to or adjectives to explain the situation. But the challenge is that we have to do it very quickly.
Right. Right. So, sir, as because you are in this field and you must have studied that report on the Intergovernmental Panel of the Climate Change, which says that it is now or never dash to the low carbon energy, right? But there are a lot of people who are skeptics of the climate change, and they say that after every, I think, 2,000 years, Earth releases emissions of the carbon energy, and our oceans have a vast reservoirs of the carbon trapped in it. So it's not actually the human making the climate change, it's actually the climate, the nature which is doing that. So do you agree with proposition?
So I think if you look at the literature that's available, the research literature,
right,
I would say 99% of it supports that it's a human induced thing in the past many years.
Okay.
And only 1% have kind of say with hand waving that yes, it has the other factors. So I think when so much people are saying about science of it, then I think we have to agree to them. And then for us, I think the smog season is something, you cannot avoid it. If you are living in the Punjab, you have to see it. And then it's seeing and believing.
Which is why I'm going to move on to Dr. Sabieh Saab over here as well, you know, because where my amazing colleague said that, you know, that there's enough literature available, but I think there's enough evidence available for us to believe that, you know, it's a man-made disaster too as well. So in addition to that, what Sir said over here, obviously we have seen that COVID came in as a blessing in disguise where, you know, there were clear skies, the air quality was improved, and, you know, we could always feel that, hey, you know what, we're breathing fresh air already. But whenever we talk about that, we really need to do it on war footing. Imagine talking about water scarcity, that in 2025 the report says that, you know, we will be water scarce and there might not be enough water for each and every one of us. How do you think that on those war footings, what do you think that we really need to do in terms of making sure that our air quality, our water resources, our agriculture, that we could save the economy of Pakistan?
Right. So Dr. Naveed has talked about air quality. I would like to talk about the parallel malady that we are facing, and that is water quality. 2.1 billion people on the globe at the present don't have access to drinkable water. And I think the majority in Pakistan don't have access to drinking water.
True.
Pakistan is an agrarian economy. 90% of the fresh water in canals and rivers that comes into Pakistan is used for agriculture. So I think there's a nexus between water and food through agriculture.
True.
And unless we work on war footing to protect and preserve our water resources, I think we're soon heading to a disaster.
True.
And how do we mitigate this problem? The first thing that we have to understand is that Pakistan's water problems and the water problems in our region, they cannot be looked at in isolation. It's a big laboratory, and the laboratory is itself the Indus water basin, starting from the glaciers. On the planet Earth, after the North and the South Pole, the biggest snow regions are in our northern areas. So starting from the glaciers right to the Arabian Sea, this is a unified, holistic, one system, and this system has to be understood. And it can be understood by scientists and engineers, and we need modeling on this large scale, regional and global scale, to understand where does our problem lie, what's the root of our problem. So I think the role of scientists and engineers in tackling this problem is of paramount importance. And the second thing I would like to mention is smart agriculture. Now there are new techniques for agriculture which come with different names like regenerative agriculture, permaculture,
drip irrigation,
and so on. So I think the majority of farmers in Pakistan, they are small landholders.
True.
Right.
So we have to protect them from internal colonization of corporations as well. So how do we safeguard our small farmers?
How do we?
And the answer lies in smart agriculture, in coming up with technologies and tools that save fertilizer, that save water, and the use of sensors and digital technologies to unravel the agricultural fields about what kind of phenotypes exist, what kind of crop cultivation exists. So I think it's a holistic effort that is needed, and technology has the answer to
Right.
this.
Thank you so much, sir, for saying that. And as I was mentioning the IPCC report, and there are the two hurdles, which they say are in the way of, actualizing the climate change policies, which is the fossil fuel industry, their interest, and secondly, the politics that is going on, in actually realizing the climate change policies. And also there's a silver lining here, Shahzad, because in every street I see 2 to 3 houses that have installed the solar panels on that, right? So, sir, are you cautiously optimistic, especially in Pakistan, when it comes to, the solar energy? Because we are, I think, transitioning from the fossil fuel interest towards the clean energy.
Or renewable energy resources.
I'm very optimistic about this. I think the mainstay of our energy mix has to come from renewable energy sources. And solar energy, photovoltaics, is one of the prime sources for this energy. You can also have wind energy, tidal energy needs to be explored. But concomitant with this need for investing in solar energy, we need to have tariff support, we need to have tax support, we need to have regulation that supports this photovoltaic economy. But we also need the technological base to produce solar panels in Pakistan. Most of the solar panels that we use in this country, almost all of them, they are imported, and they have a large import bill. So I think we need to invest in the technology and the devices and the materials to produce solar panels.
It is important, and thank you very much for highlighting and emphasizing upon that as well. But I will come back to where we were talking about our water resources as well. So imagine back in 1990, I think that we got the report that Pakistan is going to be water scarce. In 2005, we went below the line of where they said that, okay, 1,000 cubic, whatever the scale of is, we're only left with 1,017 of that as well. Where the debate is that, hey, rather we should have more dams, or rather, we should be okay with flash floods because we need the recharge too as well. So what, in your opinion, is a better solution? Because whenever we talk about the meteorological department, they say that we always release an advisory, but people will not take it seriously till the time the flash floods are there, and then hundreds of cows die or whatsoever the case is. But they have been saying and they've been emphasizing that the recharge is the most important aspect of our lives over here in Pakistan. What do you have to say about it?
I think it's a combination of all of these sources. We need large reservoirs for our agriculture as well as for hydroelectricity. But the answer lies in your question. We need to raise awareness.
True.
And that awareness has to come out through a campaign, a national campaign, starting right from the government, from the Prime Minister and the President, right down to the masses, so that people can understand the gravity of the water scarcity problem that we are facing.
True.
And it's not just water scarcity. There are certain regions in the country that overflood their irrigational fields. So I think it has to be prudently done, it has to be wisely done. One solution does not fit everything.
True.
And it depends upon the locality, it depends upon the geography, it depends upon the terrain, it depends upon the kind of crops. So it's a holistic effort that is needed.
Required. Wonderful. So, I'll move on to you, Dr. Saab, as well, where, he said that obviously we require a holistic approach, and this is something which I agree to as well. But first of all, I think when we talk about all such approaches or the intent, I think what we really need to talk about is the legislation bit of it as well, and then your approach towards it. So, you people coming and obviously representing one of the most prestigious universities in the country where people would do anything to get into. Imagine that you are the ones who are actually educating the future generation. So what is your approach? We would go with that.
Right. So Shahzad, I think as Sabieh said that we need a transdisciplinary approach to problem solving.
Bilkul.
And at LUMS, I think what we did differently is that we have developed these centers and institutes that are cross-disciplinary.
Right.
So LUMS Energy Institute, water, and then
you've been working together on that.
Yeah. So different departments are working together, and I'm talking with the people from economics and policy making and business, so that we have again a comprehensive approach.
All right.
So what we did was that I'll give you an example. LUMS Energy Institute. So the institute we established in 2018 with the intent to solve Pakistan's energy problems, but not from the traditional way, but from an out-of-box way.
Right.
But then the challenge was that typically as researchers, what we do is publish, right? I mean, that's what we are synonymous of. I mean, publish or perish, you must have heard that.
Right.
But those publications are in journals and conference papers were typically not so easy to read for general public, especially for people who are in decision making, who have short of time. So what we started doing was that we started publishing these Pakistan-specific reports, taking a challenge and then trying to address the problem and giving some recommendations to the policymakers.
All right.
Now, what we did differently was that we gathered a lot of data for that. And the data is scarce, but it is available. So we gathered data from different offices, from files, from papers, from Excel sheets, and we gathered them at one place. And then we did simulations and stuff, and then prepared a report, which is not a very difficult to read report, and then we added an executive summary for people who have less time. For people who have even less time, we added a visual summary.
All right.
So in that way, I think we reached multiple audience. And not only in Pakistan, but around the world, those reports were recognized that these are a good quality work, although we didn't get publishing credit, but at least for the government it was good. I'll give you just one example. So we published an electric vehicle policy recommendation back in 2018. And we just sent out those reports to the ministries. Sure. And I got a call from the Minister of Climate Change, okay, you have published this report, why don't we discuss it? And then we started working on the electric vehicle policy, which again turned into a national level policy, and then now the implementation of the policy is going on. And similarly, we have worked in other areas.
True.
So I think that was a good tool to connect with the legislation, because they are looking for evidence-based research, and there we are trying to provide them to the best possible way we can.
Wonderful. And but what is their first response every time you provide them with such amazing research and a lot of years of hard work as well? What is the first response you get from them? I think it is as important as we speak about your research.
So I think there are champions in every government.
All right.
There are champions in every ministry. You just have to find the right champion.
I like the optimism, and I think it's a great start to the week and day as well. Yeah, you wanted to ask something, Arjun.
Right. So I wanted to ask, for example, you specified that you have worked in the electric vehicle field. Yeah. What are the more areas of interest, which you are currently working?
Right. So we are working on solar energy,
right,
and looking at it from a different. You mentioned about rooftop solar.
Right.
But there is another way of producing solar energy, and that is then you have utility scale. But you cannot compromise your agricultural land for utility scale. So we did a research where we identified different areas in Punjab which are not cultivated, which can be used, and they have to be closer to the load center so that the energy is not wasted. Another thing, that's a very critical thing, and I think that's a project that I think we'll be really proud of when it will finish, and it really gives some interesting ideas. And a couple of our colleagues are working on it. That's called agri-photovoltaics. So agri-photovoltaics is a technology where you have a field where you grow crops, and then on top of it you have solar panels.
Right.
So you are growing crops beneath, and you are producing energy on top. And they can be vertical, they can be horizontal. Now, you know, in the world, it has been proven you can get 186% productivity from the same land.
And people are doing so as well.
We are doing so, and for Pakistan, that's another advantage. You know, we have heat waves and everything.
Right.
When there's shade, some crops actually grow better.
True.
So tomatoes, lettuce, some kind of grains, those grow better when you have shade.
But
And
what are the obstacles exactly into implementation of this?
I think important thing is that we are a nation which believe in seeing is believing kind of a thing. So if somebody comes to LUMS, we can show them, we can take to other fields.
When did they come?
We'll show them and we'll show all the results, but the results are really promising. And I think that's something that we need to do. Another reason why that's important is that Punjab is the main load center of Pakistan.
True.
But Punjab does not have any indigenous resource. Hydro is far, wind is in Sindh. So we need to have closer to home some source. And agri-photovoltaics provide us, you can say, a brilliant use of solar energy.
Exactly, and I think that we can we can utilize it to that extent as well, and it is really very important too as well. But moving on to you, sir, now once again, you know, we've spoken about agriculture, we've spoken about air, we've spoken about water as well. But we certainly do not see any technological interventions when we come down towards agriculture or any of such problems too as well. You know, you spoke about it, the research is there, you know, so we have enough evidence to say that, hey, you know what, we should actually move on towards the next generation, and it is the need of the hour as well. For how long do you think we'll continue to do so? So imagine when we talk about technological interventions, may it be, you know, water resources, may it be the air quality, may it be the agriculture, how do you think that we kind of introduce a way where that technology is cheaper for people to adopt to? Because I think that's the major challenge over here with people, that they certainly do not have enough budget, or the economics of it does not really help them to kind of get where they want to be.
I think the
cheaper solutions.
I think one cheaper solution, for example, let me give you an example, is biomass. Pakistan's import bill is massive, and about 40% of the import bill is related to fuels and chemicals. Now, 1/3 of this import bill can come from agrarian waste.
All right.
This is waste that we refuse, that is just produced as a result of our agricultural activity. Now, this process is called biomass valorization, extracting useful pearls from what appears to be just random a heap of debris.
Yes, yes, yes.
There about 200 million tons of agricultural waste are produced every year in the country. The 90 sugar mills in Pakistan, they produced alone 20 million tons of agricultural waste. Now, this waste has to be reused and recycled, so you can make energy out of it, you can produce petrochemicals out of it, you can create catalysts.
And people are doing that across the border as well.
Right, and this initiative has already been started in Pakistan. In LUMS, for example, we have a group of people in the Department of Chemistry and Chemical Engineering who are experts in this area. They are creating catalysts out of it, they are creating petrochemicals out of it, they are creating bio-oils out of it. So this is the whole concept of green chemistry. I would just like to mention the point that these problems that look so severe and haunt us to the core, they have to be tackled by innovative solutions. And those innovative solutions, they're not necessarily expensive. They can be very low cost. They can be indigenous. For example, this biomass.
And how do you think green chemistry can be a solution for our climate change problems?
So green chemistry is a way of doing chemistry right from the source to the disposal of chemicals, which does not add or reduces the addition of hazardous materials to the environment.
All right.
And this is done at the atomic scale, at the molecular scale. So I think it's the great symbiosis between scientists who work on fundamental areas, engineers and policymakers that Naveed Arshad is talking about, and the government, of course. Bigger problems have to be provided by a solution by the main stakeholders, and that is the government.
Exactly.
So it's a whole ladder, it's a whole ecosystem that is important.
Thank you very much for saying that.
And I would just like to mention the role of entrepreneurship in this.
Sure.
Right.
Entrepreneurship is an area that gives you a level playing field. Technology has been pluralized, it has been democratized. I would say that the cost of an integrated circuit these days is smaller than the cost of a naan or a roti that you buy from a tandoor. Now this is in everyone's hands, and you can see many startups in the country, many small units in the country that are doing agricultural robotics, that are making agricultural implements, that are making soil sensors, water sensors. I think this is the way to go. It's the patronage that is needed, and the government can do that.
And thank you very much for highlighting that as well. But very quickly, one last question, sir, from you, and that is that you obviously spoke about the electronic vehicle policy as well. And I was just watching this documentary since I love cars, and I think imagine Lamborghini putting in so much of money, millions of billions of dollars to make sure that their car is going to be fast, and here's Elon Musk, and the car is faster anyways, without an engine. So imagine they say that that when we talk about those batteries which are being used in all of these electric vehicles, it's really hard for them to go back after the life they were supposed to spend. So do you think that we're already thinking about it, or rather, next 15 years we have another problem that we do not know what to do with all of those batteries which are of no use at any cost?
Yeah, I think excellent question. I'll just maybe connect to another thing that Sabieh said, and that is every challenge is an opportunity. So climate change, environment is an opportunity. If we can grab it, Elon Musk is doing it, so he's making billions, rather trillions.
Yeah.
So coming back to your question, so the batteries they use in electric vehicle, which are the lithium-ion chemistries, are typically long-range or long-lasting batteries. They, guarantee life of about 7 to 10 years.
All right.
But the thing is that once they are not, you can say, suitable for cars, they can be used as a second life for stationary storage. For example, in solar cells, grid-scale storage, RVs, and other locations.
Or probably we'll be using batteries for UPS too as well.
Yes. And then another 10 or so years, you can use them.
Wow.
So 15 to 20 years before a battery is available for, you can say, recycling. And then the material is already there. The lithium is there, the manganese is there, the nickel is there. So you can recycle those materials. So the battery problem is going to come, but before our batteries are going to be available for second life or third life, the science will be there to solve that problem. So trust me, that's not going to be the problem.
All right, that's wonderful. But thank you very much, gentlemen, for being with us. It was really an enlightening morning for me, and I believe that for all of those people out there in 46 different countries, it was for you too as well. But since we have spoken, we have emphasized upon the research of it as well. I think the next segment is dedicated towards research and development too. We really do not have that culture over here. We do not have a lot of investment. The universities, like prestigious universities like LUMS, obviously can afford to do so. But universities which we went to, I think even you probably do not give us or allow us or have that opportunity to that, we experiment more and more and kind of add on towards the development and prosperity of the country. But how do we do it, in a cheaper solution? That's what we're looking for in the next segment. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Good morning.